Number 3, you'll have 100 reasons to quit early. Well, you'll have 100 reasons to quit at any point, but particularly in the early phase. And this is something I, within the first couple of months of starting Trulia. This is actually a picture of my graduation in Palo Alto. I was just graduating from the Stanford Business School 2005. I'm the person on the right with the extremely good taste of fashion, as you can tell from my shoes. And then the gentleman on my right in the picture, on the left, was my co-founder partner. And early on, it's tough to actually get the company up and running. And here's a couple of things that was happening in my life. So first of all, I was a Finn in the US. I just came out of a grad school, and all my mentors and even the representatives of school told me that it's extremely hard to get the working visa if you're an entrepreneur coming from outside of the US. That's just not going to work. It is very tough to make it happen. As a business, we were 2 guys and 15 PowerPoint slides. That was effectively what we have had together in the form of a company. I used to be a software developer until 1999, but I had not written code for the last 6 years. My co-founder partner was sort of a physicist himself as well, wasn't really a developer. So we had no developers to actually build a software product. We certainly had no salary. We had no funding. My personal situation was such that I had worked for McKinsey a little while in Finland right before going to business school, and I had promised to go back to this consulting firm to take the 6-figure salary and, capitalize on my MBA. But during the spring, just before graduation, I came to the realization that, no, that's not the path. I want to go back to what I really love to do, which is start companies and change the world. And they said, that's fine, but you have to send us back your $10,000 signing check or signing bonus. So I sent them back to $10,000. I just didn't have the $10,000, so I had to borrow $10,000 from a friend of mine. So I was only $10,000 minus. Plus, going to a business school in the US is not particularly cheap. So I had $100,000 in debt. And I was in a foreign country. I had no working visa. The only kind of a somewhat light thing was I actually had a fiancée at the time, although she was in Finland and I was in the US. So that wasn't really working either. So this was kind of the context and what I was facing when I was starting Trulia. And so you'll have 100 reasons to quit. It's never going to be super easy and just a very attractive proposal to start something from scratch. 3 months later, this is a picture of Trulia at the time. It was 6 individuals. Somehow in the 90 days, from the graduation, we got a couple of things done. So I got a work visa. My co-founder partner sponsored the application for me. I sponsored an application for him. We applied, and the immigration somehow, I don't know, they probably made a mistake. They stamped. We got the 3-year working visa, so that was kind of taken care of. We had an office, which was a serviced office. We probably paid, $500,000 for a few desks. We had couple of developers. In fact, everyone else was a developer, so 4 guys. Salary, we actually managed to get a single angel investor who wrote the $25,000 check. We cashed it immediately. We had pretty flexible terms, so we were able to cash the checks as soon as we got in. I don't know why he invested at that point, but we got the money and we were off and running. Unfortunately, not everything worked. My fiancé said, I'm just not going to sign up for that kind of life. Sounds way too risky, and the fiancé was gone. So you have 100 reasons to quit. And over those first few months, the lesson number 4 that I learned was, and I'm a huge fan of chicken in many ways anyway, so everything is a chicken versus egg problem. And I thought this is just something in the very, very beginning. Some of you may relate to this, but you may go to an investor and say, hey, I have this wonderful idea and I'm looking for 100,000 or 25,000 or 5,000 or what's as part of the venture garage, I think you have some kind of a fund that you can use for your living expenses, whatever the money is that you're trying to raise. Say, sure, I'll invest if you can build a prototype. Well, to build a prototype, you probably need, a solid team of developers to get it done, even if it's yourself. But to be able to do that, you need the money. So how do you break this? I need a demo, I need developers, I need money, but I don't get money if I don't have the prototype. So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing, and you just need to hustle. Everything is just a chicken and an egg problem. So you go to one investor and say, hey, we have this great idea, and then he or she's going to say, hey, if you have a demo, I'll definitely be interested. Then you go to another investor and say, hey, this one is going to invest. It's just looking, do you want to join the syndicate and get some money for us? And then a week later, you come with some kind of a tiny piece of a prototype, and it's just a hustling. We outsourced some of the early development to Romania for like $300. We built something totally ridiculously crappy. But at least we had a prototype, which was enough to convince someone that these guys aren't just going to be talking, but they're actually trying to build something. So everything is a chicken and egg problem. It will never change. I think this is one of the key skills and abilities that an entrepreneur needs to have. And once you get further, if you're an enterprise software product, to land an awesome client, you usually need a reference. So how do you get a reference if you don't have a client? So everything just ends up being a chicken and egg problem. Same comes to recruiting and finding superstar talent. It's difficult to get superstar talent unless you've proven that you have others who are willing to take the risk and join the big companies and join your company. Number 7, it's a lesson that I pretty much relearn every year. Go for A+ in everything, especially early on. How many of you have heard the saying that A people hire A people and B people hire B- people? Okay, so good. So many of you have already heard that. And I'll give you one personal example. One of my early VPs, vice presidents, was part of the senior management team. In this person's team, he saw her direct report came to me after I have let this person go, saying, thank you so much for letting this VP go, because I was this close at quitting. It was so horrible. I went home crying sometimes, and thank you for letting this person go. It's just a fact that if and when you want to build a rockstar team, you have to look for A+ people first. And some of you may have been in interviews where it feels like you're running circles around the interviewer, and you're like, I would never work for that person. You want to make sure that you don't have that kind of people in your team. You want to have people who attract other superstars into your team. So this is sort of just focus on A+ early on in people, but not just people. It's also investors. Another example I can give, 2000, this was our third round of financing. We have the two main investors that we have are Accel Capital, which also has an office in London, and then Sequoia Capital. And Sequoia, we knew that that's probably one of the better, if not the best, name at a time, because they had invested into anything from Cisco to Google to Yahoo, and was a very, very respected investor. Sort of an A+ VC. And we were pretty lucky. We had a number of term sheets, so a number of VCs who wanted to invest into us, and their offer was certainly not the highest. So they weren't willing to pay the highest price. But we thought by having them would give us the credibility later on to either raise more money, hire top talent, or get access to some other partners or media. So we've always tried to get to A+, whether it's lawyers. I've gotten so many amazing introductions by lawyers that we work with which are top-tier firms, or investors, or advisors, or associate yourselves with, whether it's Startup Sauna or Aaltoes or whatever it is. I think it always pays back to aim for the very highest quality partners and investors and employees. All right, that was number 9. What is number 10? So this is my very personal favorite thing that I've learned. Probably the last one. This is sort of in a chronological order. It's the journey. It's not the destination. And particularly early on, it's it's very easy to get, and it's a good thing, to get very excited about specific destinations or goals, like I'm going to ship the product, or I get the funding from an angel investor, I'm going to get into the startup sauna. It's like that's what we're going to aim for later on, whatever it might be. You IPO the company, and then it's done, and then it's like that's the end of it. Whatever it is, there's all kinds of destinations, or make a lot of money, or get the product in the hands of millions of people, or get a press, or get your name into the headlines of a newspaper or magazine, and that's so awesome, it's famous, and all kinds of things. But these destinations come, and there's a lot of those destinations. Then when you look back, you realize that, crap, the real fun part is actually the journey. And by the way, there's no way of knowing which destination you end up. None of those things that you may dream around or dream about when you're starting may not materialize. What will materialize is the journey. So it's good to enjoy and try to find enjoyment from every single day and every single task and every single little destination that you have. It is actually a real taxi cab in New York. The only ever paid marketing campaign we've done. The background picture there.
The name, Trulia. So
the name.
Yeah, how did you reach that?
Yeah, so at the time when we were starting, Pete had a girlfriend called Tracy, and I had a girlfriend called Julia. So we thought Tracy and Julia. And then criteria number 3 is the domain name was available. So with really no funding, it was GoDaddy.com, $15 for a year.
A simple question. What's your daily routine from wake up to going to bed?
My wife's sitting there in the back row and she's laughing. I don't know why. What's my daily on an average day in the US? There's probably no average day, but let's try to be fair here. So I'll probably wake up 5:20 in the morning. By hopefully 5:50, I'm doing my workout, which I do a lot of sports, so I might hop on a bike, trainer, run something, try to beat myself into the ground. By 7:20, 30, like an hour and a half, I'm done. And then by 8, I'm in a bus. I moved a little further away from my office. It takes about 20, 25 minutes to get there. I'm going to the city of San Francisco, and for the half hour, I'm probably doing email. I'm preparing for my meeting. So I'd say from 8:30 or 9 to 6 or 7, I'm at the office. Then I come back home, and I usually work probably from 8 to 9, or depending on 8 to 11 from home as well. But at the office from 8:30 or 9 to whatever it might be, 6 or 7 when I'm not traveling. Probably 1/3 to half is meetings. Another quarter is, unfortunately, maybe email. And then another 25% is interviews, mostly for recruiting. Might be some other stuff, interviews for whatever, press or something like that. Interestingly, if you Google my name, you maybe stumble on my blog. I try to do every year or so an analysis of my time use. So I did that for 2 or 3 weeks some time ago already. So I listed every single activity I did for work by 15-minute increments. And then I categorized, like, how did I use my time? So you can get a specific answer how much I wasted time, what was effective. The outcome of that was I spent way too much time in my inbox, and I spent way too much time in meetings where I felt I wasn't having a very strong and big impact. And so I tried to adjust that by allocating my time into things that are very, very, very effective.